All right, man, peace. You know, brothers, it's becoming more and more apparent to me as I follow this Kevin Durant narrative, this situation that, of course, is going to build to a head at the end of next season, or really at the end of this season by now, because we are in the preseason of the NBA. That if and when he does decide to leave the Golden State Warriors and utilize his free agency rights, it's going to be because of his incessant need to try to disprove the mob. And that's very unfortunate, because oftentimes when you listen to the mob, you become a part of the mob. And you could never, ever, if you're Kevin Durant, allow the whimsicality and the jealousy of the average bloke to determine your decision making. Why is that? Because Kevin Durant has options that most people don't have. And I did a video pertaining to Kevin Durant and Clyde Frazier, where I stated that without a doubt in my mind, there was an element of jealousy coming from Clyde Frazier in his remarks about Kevin Durant. And a lot of people don't understand that. Why is that? Because in order for you to understand a sentiment, you have to be able to formulate that person's perspective within your own mind. And when you look at a former player like a Walt Clyde Frazier, all he can do is envision the options that Kevin Durant has, but from his own perspective. Meaning he's still thinking from the perspective of a basketball player that participated in the NBA in the late 60s throughout the 70s, as opposed to someone who has far more options today than Clyde Frazier ever had. So of course he's going to say, well, I wanted to beat the Celtics. I wanted to beat the Lakers. But you had no problem when they brought in Earl the Pearl Monroe, right? And that was your top rival in the Eastern Conference, was Earl the Pearl Monroe. But you had no problem when they brought him in. It's just funny to me. And a lot of people say, well, why are you calling Clyde jealous? Why can't that just be his perspective? At the end of the day, in order for you to fully be able to grasp why someone does what they do, you have to be able to formulate their perspective. You have to be able to envision what it's like to have the multitude of options that a Kevin Durant has. I mean, I'm just going to keep it funky with you. A lot of you guys are never going to have the level of options that Kevin Durant has. You're just not. I mean, I'm just going to keep it funky with you right now. A lot of cats out there are two-dimensional thinkers, and they're making appraisals on a three-dimensional issue. That being the options, the level of power, and prestige, dare I say, that Kevin Durant has. How many of you are working at your current job? You're going to go to work on Monday and then have one of your jobs or your company's top competitors call you up or send you an email saying, we love what you do for your company. We want you to come work with us. We're going to offer you more money, a better location, more vacation time. And if that were to happen, how many of you would say no thank you? That's what you're going to have to envision within yourself before you make a judgment on what Kevin Durant did. If you're flipping fries for Burger King and McDonald's calls you and says, we love how you flip those fries. We're going to give you more money, more vacation time, and our location is closer to your house than where you're currently working. I guarantee you're going to go flip those fries for McDonald's. I guarantee you that. So it's always very interesting to me how upset, quote unquote, fans get by a top level basketball player when he chooses to utilize his free agency rights. I have never, ever made a statement on this channel in regards to LeBron James and his decision to go to Miami, because that is his decision. I've never, ever made any assertion about when he went back to Cleveland in regards to he should not have done that. I've never said when he went to LA, he should not have done that. Now, I'll give you my perspective on what his motivations were. But as a grown man, he has the right to make those decisions. And loyalty to a franchise should be the least of his or any other professional athlete's concerns. Because I guarantee you, had the Oklahoma City Thunder traded Kevin Durant for a package of Steph Curry, Draymond Green, and a first-round draft pick, I promise you that most of the people in Oklahoma City would not have batted an eyelash, and most of the NBA fans all across the world would not have cared. They wouldn't have said, oh, look at how disloyal Oklahoma City was to Kevin Durant. Nobody would have cared. And it's just amazing to me. I mean, shit, all this stuff is entertainment. This is make-believe. People talking about, oh, he was a snake, he was a coward, he was a this. How many of you guys have gone to the park on a Saturday afternoon with 10 of your friends and y'all play maybe 5 or 6 pickup games? You don't have the same team for every game. One game you have this group of guys on your team. The next game you might have a different group of guys on your team. It's a game, man. They're all a part of a fraternity. It's not that big a deal. Once again, that's how you know that when Walt Frazier or many of the other old heads in the NBA speak out against what Kevin Durant did, is because of the jealousy that they feel over their lack of options. If you're a Larry Bird or Magic Johnson or Michael Jordan and you had a 3-year contract and full free agency, you think those guys would have been on the same team for their entire careers? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. Karl Malone, Patrick Ewing, Reggie Miller, they would have been left their teams if they had the option. And as I've stated in other videos, in the off-season, before the 1996-1997 season, both Michael Jordan and Reggie Miller flirted with the idea of signing with the New York Knicks. So this brings us back to KD, who's starting to realize that he's not going to receive too many accolades as long as he's a member of the Golden State Warriors. So will that instigate him? Will that motivate him into leaving so that he can try to get back that individual acclaim? Or will he be able to put that in its proper place in order to keep the team first? We're going to find out at the end of this season. So they're going to talk about it, and I'm going to chime in.
Kevin Durant plays such a bizarre role in today's NBA. The 2-time finals MVP. He's somehow both the reigning homecoming king and the wrestling heel. He's the best but not most loved player on his team. He's nearly peerless in his all-around skill, but not a strong contender for any of the league's regular season awards.
Well, the main problem with KD is that KD is the most gifted and talented non-alpha in the history of the NBA. And that's really the conundrum of KD, is that he's not an alpha. So when we look at many of the other great supplementary players to come through the NBA, whether they be Scottie Pippen, James Worthy, Kevin McHale, Joe Dumars, KD is far greater in what he brings to the table than those players were. Far greater overall. I'm sure that certain people might try to contest that. Of course, we know that Scottie Pippen was a 10 out of 10 on defense. And on offense, he was very, very good, very potent, especially in the early 90s when the Bulls used to run more. But Kevin Durant is bringing you 27, 28 points a game on 50% shooting and very good defense. He's someone that is so talented that many of the so-called NBA pundits are frustrated with his unwillingness to take on an alpha role. But alphas are born, they're not made. You have to be born that, and Kevin Durant is not an alpha. Well, that's why he fits in so well with Golden State. Because personality-wise, their alpha is Draymond Green, and he does not want to shoot. Steph Curry is like a semi-alpha, but the level of largesse that Steph Curry brings to the table allows Kevin Durant to fit in seamlessly with that team. So he fits in so well, I think that he would be foolish to leave, but once again, I do suspect that this gnawing feeling that he has in his subconscious, with many of the fans and the so-called NBA experts telling him that he was a coward and a snake for doing what he did, is going to motivate him to try to prove himself on another team. But we'll find out.
I mean, sure, if he really does something so exceptional and historical, maybe, but maybe not even then. And KD knows all of this. He was talking about it just this week to a Bay Area radio station. Take a listen.
You know they're not going to give me anything. Even if it's on the fence, I have to be clear-cut better than everybody for me to even get a look. So
I agree with that. In order for KD to win the NBA regular season MVP award, he's going to have to average at least 30 points per game on 50% shooting. And the Warriors are going to have to win the most regular season games, probably by 10 games or more, in order for him to win the MVP. Because as we all know, the burgeoning narrative in the NBA is that they're going to give LeBron James the regular season MVP award as part of his joining the LA Lakers storyline. So, of course, that fits in very well with the fact that LeBron James has gone Hollywood, or really Hollyweird. That he's more interested in narratives and storylines than he is the actual potential to win championships. But I do believe that the NBA is going to put LeBron in a relatively advantageous position to win a championship at least one of the next 4 years. But just getting back to KD, I agree with him. He's going to have a huge season to be even considered for regular season MVP. Meaning he's going to have to win the scoring title. The Warriors are going to have to win at least 65 games. He's going to have to shoot over 50%. He's probably going to have to go 50, 40, 90. Things of that nature. And he's going to also have to play great defense and play at least 75 to 80 games. just for him to get a look, because they want LeBron to win so bad. Even though I don't think that LeBron's going to win it, I think that it's going to end up going to Anthony Davis.
So, why do you think that is? I mean, it's just pure hate for me, obviously, and no appreciation for my real skill for the game. But I get it. I understand where we're coming from.
I understand where they're coming from as well, KD. It's a lot of jealousy. It's a lot of people frustrated that they don't have the options that you have.
I understand what we have here in this building that scares everybody. But for me, I was just proud of the growth that I had in that area, whereas I just wanted to be able to be relied on to guard anybody. You know, accolades, that stuff, that stuff is kind of long gone for me, unless it's like, you know, finals or something like that, where it's probably pretty even. But, you know, regular season awards, I mean, I'm never going to get a look when it comes to that, especially playing here for the Warriors.
Now, did you brothers hear that? KD states he's never going to get another look at regular season accolades or really even any real consideration while he's with the Warriors. Once again, this could be the impetus that will be used by KD, or maybe even many of the manipulative factions that want KD to leave Golden State. They may tell KD, well, if you go to the Knicks, or if you go here or you go there, right, go to Miami or what have you, you may have a greater chance of winning more regular season MVPs. And we'll see if that's something that seduces him.
So there's a lot there. And, of course, the line that got all the headlines was Kevin saying he doesn't win stuff like Defensive Player of the Year because, quote, it's just pure hate for me, obviously, and no real appreciation for my real skill in the game.
In case you missed it the first time.
I'm just saying. Look, I certainly understand why KD feels that way. He is clearly frustrated that we are now going into his third season since he left the Thunder, and not a day goes by without someone chirping at him that he is a snake or a coward or that he will never measure up. And yeah, he has been told by everyone, from his friends to his teammates to all of us.
Now look at that photo. That photo to me speaks volumes. You see that Draymond and Steph Curry are lavishing a lot of attention, even in a jocular manner, on Kevin Durant because they know that he's very fragile emotionally. Psychologically, he is relatively fragile. I think that he's trying to grow his way out of that. But that's just his nature. And the job of Draymond and Steph Curry is to act as his proverbial handlers, to make sure that he's always where he's supposed to be psychologically. Now look at Klay Thompson. Klay is looking straight ahead because Klay is the most self-assured and most confident person on that team. That's why I have little doubt that he's going to re-sign with the Warriors at the end of this season. In regards to DeMarcus Cousins, DeMarcus does not know all the members of the team well enough yet to joke around like that. And also remember that he and KD got into a little fracas last season. So who knows what's going on with their rapport. So DeMarcus is focused on exuding a professional demeanor. But, you know, as they say, a picture speaks 1,000 words.
Hey, Kevin, you can't worry about what people think. Move on. Be the bigger person. Don't create that burner account. But look, none of us are Kevin Durant, and I really believe strongly none of us get to decide what he is supposed to feel or how he is supposed to act. Now, what I can say is that the people who vote on regular season awards, that is not the internet mob. That is a pretty select group of media who follow the league very closely and are held publicly accountable for their votes. So I don't personally believe hate is factoring into why KD.
You know, brothers, I would say, who are these media members to be able to establish themselves as some level of a judiciary committee or an arbiter of greatness or proficiency on either offense or defense? But when you put these decisions in the hands of the coaches and the players, all you see are agendas. None of the players or the coaches ever vote seriously. They always vote according to their feelings. So it's difficult to castigate the media when the players and the coaches do a far worse job in being able to come to a real decision in regards to who deserves this accolade or that accolade.
KD isn't winning the kind of recognition that he's looking for. This is much more about what happens when you play on a team of all-stars. After all, the exact same diamond, let's say, can be a blinding knockout when it is set solo on Cardi B's finger. But if it is just part of a diamond watch, not only won't you notice that one particular stone as much, you can't really even assess how much it is individual.
You know, brothers, not to digress, but it's very obvious that this person, Cardi B, is an MK asset. She just gets mentioned on television shows that really have no business mentioning her. And she's known by people who you would not think should know who Cardi B is. But that's another video for another day in regards to Cardi B. But she's obviously someone who's under the programming.
Individually responsible for the overall bling on your wrist. Stephen Jackson knows he wears these watches. And even the stuff we can assess through advanced stats doesn't tend to come out in KD's favor. Yes, his blocks per game last season were a personal best, but not the league best. His defensive real plus minus was outside the NBA's top 300. And
well, we have to understand something. Oftentimes people like to throw numbers at you and they're unable to qualify or even quantify those numbers. Teams that have a player that leads the league in blocks, it can oftentimes be indicative not just of the defensive dominance of that person who's leading the league in blocks, say a Rudy Gobert per se, or maybe a Hassan Whiteside, but it can also indicate that they have very poor perimeter defense. KD is primarily a help defender. He's not just going to sit in the lane and wait for guys to try to drive so that he can get a bunch of shot blocks. He's going to help. He's going to assist. And when you have very good one-on-one defenders like the Warriors have, that's going to take away from Kevin Durant being able to accumulate a bunch of blocks, because these players who are playing on the perimeter for the other team are not going to be able to drive the lane as easily as they would if they were going against a team that had very poor perimeter defenders. So sometimes you have to know how to read a stat. It's not always about who's leading the league in blocks and that makes them the best shot blocker. I mean, oftentimes it is, but sometimes you have to be able to delve a little bit deeper into what's going on. It's like a player who leads the league in steals. That does not necessarily mean that you're a great defender. Really, it means that you have a great nose for the ball. Allen Iverson led the league in steals, I believe, more than once. But he says himself that he was not a great defender, even though I think he was a better defender than he gives himself credit for.
And that doesn't mean KD is not a very good defender. He clearly is. But there's also just the reality that on a team of all-stars, you're not going to carry as much of the defensive workload as you would in other places. Bottom line, you know how coaches always blather on about the sacrifices you have to make for winning? On this team, this is one of them. Just ask Steph Curry. And who?
Absolutely, that's a great point. Nobody has sacrificed more than Curry, because Curry could average 35 a game if he really wanted to. If he had that ultimate green light, he could be averaging 32, 33, 34, 35 points a game. He really could.
And who knows, perhaps KD will get frustrated enough with no longer getting that regular season recognition, and with the hate he does still get on the daily, and with knowing that on the roster...
Right, but you know what? Hate is a part of success. The more success that you achieve, the more hate that you're going to receive. It's okay.
This lousy with talent, there isn't often room for him to fully unfurl all his powers. Perhaps next summer he will want to go somewhere else. It is why he signed such a short-term deal a couple months ago, to give himself that option. And I know, on the one hand, it seems like madness to walk away from what could end up being one of the great dynasties in NBA history. On the other hand, well, it is a bizarre space that he occupies right now, and I can understand if sometimes he at least ponders how long he wants to stay there. So, Stephen...
That's Rachel Nichols trying to put out into the atmosphere that KD is possibly considering leaving, or that she thinks that he should be considering leaving if it's making him that upset. These are going to be one of the ploys and the tactics that the mainstream liberal sports media are going to be using over the course of this season, especially if the Warriors come out once again and win 66, 67 games and they go 16-2 in the playoffs. You can expect them to try to throttle it up to try to get KD to leave, especially if it means that maybe he'll go to LA and help their boothing LeBron James.
Stephen, should KD just accept the fact that he's not going to get much credit because he joined the Warriors?
I mean, yeah, he should accept that. I mean, LeBron's been going through it forever. You know, I mean, welcome to LeBron's world. But one thing.
Well, a lot of that ended when LeBron went back to Cleveland, which was very intelligent, very strategic by he and his team. He was able to re-ingratiate himself with Middle America and with the NBA at large.
One thing I can say, since he's been in Golden State, he has been a better defender. And when we talk about MVP, I know we have different feelings about the MVP, but when you talk about best players in the league and all he should worry about is that, when you talk about best players in the league, you can't talk about him without having him and LeBron in the same.
That's a great stat. Lowest field goal percentage allowed last season. He's right behind Anthony Davis.
on the same category. So to him, his peers, and the players we all know, he should be at the top of the list. He plays, he's one of the best players in the league, but you just don't get it. Welcome to LeBron's world.
Yeah, I mean, the whole thing is LeBron literally doesn't get MVP because we figured he's had enough, right?
Well, no, not quite. Actually, LeBron does not get MVP because he has not had the best season in the last 4 years. He just has not. The last time that LeBron won the MVP was in 2013. In 2014, Kevin Durant had a better season than him. In 2015, Steph Curry had a better season than him. In 2016, Steph Curry had a better season than him. In 2017, Russell Westbrook had a better season than him. And in 2018, James Harden had a better season than LeBron James. Those are just the facts of the matter.
Like you want to talk about, like you want to really feel upset about why someone's not getting MVP. Like,
right.
No, but you've had enough.
Right.
Like, that's why he's not getting MVP.
No, that's just media narrative.
So for KD to say it's because of hate, it's not because of hate.
Well, kind of.
It's not hate.
Yeah, it is kind of because of hate. It is kind of because of hate. But it's well-due hate. It's the hate that you get from being great. Right? It's well-due hate. It's not particularly unjust hate per se. It's a lot of people who are jealous because they'll never have the options that he has. And you have to deal with that. When you're gifted, you have to deal with the slings and arrows that you receive from people who have not taken the time to cultivate their gift. That's more of a reflection of their laziness than anything else. You should pity them, not necessarily get too upset with them, even though every once in a while you are going to spaz out.
So then they hate Steph Curry because Steph Curry should be an MVP candidate every year, but he's not. Because
I hear so many people hate on Steph Curry because he shoots that good. Because he doesn't dunk like Westbrook. He just shoots jumpers. Well, he's good at what he does.
I think they're both MVP caliber players, but I think that's the deal that they made when they said, "Hey, we're all going to get together."
Absolutely, because Steph Curry once again has cost himself a couple of scoring titles. He's cost himself probably a couple of MVPs.
Question. I agree.
We're going to put our personal interests aside for a greater good. It's the speech that David West gave in the locker room after his first championship there, talking about, people talk about sacrifice. Sacrifice is easy in July, August, September. It's hard in May and June.
Yep.
And that's what these guys came in here. These are MVPs, these are Hall of Famers, and they all left something so that we can have a greater good. You can't then turn around and say, no, I want that something back.
Well, okay, so where do you, Stack, think it's... Because Kevin knows all of this, right? So where do you think this comes from? For me, you heard me say, I think the fact that he just gets this barrage every day from people still.
Well, number one, he's on social media too much. And that's a major problem that he has. He's really suffering from information overload. And every once in a while, you have to unplug from that environment because it's not healthy. Don't ever underestimate how mentally ill the average person is out here. Particularly since most people in this society live according to the culture of Thelima, meaning do what thou wilt. They're not taking the time to cultivate their own gifts, and they have too much time on their hands to worry about other people that have options because they have cultivated their own gifts. Kevin Durant made a decision and a commitment to himself to become the best basketball player that he could be, and it's turned out well for him. Of course, he's going to be judged harshly by somebody who spends most of their day sitting on a couch eating Tostitos and all that other shit. Of course he is. He's not supposed to allow himself to be too affected by that. He has to be able to brush that off, and if he can't, he needs to sign off the internet.
And I said it before here, like, Kevin has got to feel like, gosh, people, what the hell do I else have to do? He's won 2 finals MVPs. He does a lot of charity work off the court.
Right, but you know what? If he's asking that question to himself, that means that he's not in a good place mentally. You should never be asking yourself, what do I have to do to get people to like me? All you have to do is maintain who you are as a person, keep the laws of the land, keep the laws of the Most High. To hell with everything else. People are going to come and go. That's life. Make sure that you continue to be a productive individual and take your gifts to the optimal or to the optimum. That's your job. Not trying to make other people happy. Most of these people are never going to be happy.
At some point, he has to figure, look, LeBron was forgiven for leaving Cleveland and going to Miami. How come this hasn't happened for me? But I don't know if that then channels. I don't know if that then channels into this. Is this part of, like, that's my guess on why he's still kind of so hung up on this stuff.
Well, me personally, I wouldn't be hung up, but I understand him to some point because every time on my social media I say something nice about him, I get 2,000 comments just hating me for liking him.
Like, people are, I mean,
it's crazy. It's crazy.
As if this happened this summer.
No, it's just jealousy. And a lot of people don't even understand that they're jealous. As I've stated in the past, in Proverbs the 27th chapter, it tells you that wrath is cruel and anger is outrageous, but who can stand before envy? Why is that? Because most people who are envious don't even know that they're envious, or they do and they don't want to admit it.
Summer. People are acting now as if this happened last week.
But I get it. I get it though.
No,
I know why.
you know what? No, but you know what? You said LeBron got the forgiveness. Why hasn't KD gotten the forgiveness? You know what the difference is? After LeBron made his decision, everyone got mad and they spent that year mad. He didn't keep talking about it every single opportunity. LeBron should have won more MVPs, right? Mm-hmm. We hear LeBron, man, I should have got MVPs, but they...
Actually, we do hear LeBron lament that he has not won more MVPs. But I will say this, I do acknowledge that LeBron has not spent as much time complaining about how much he gets disliked as Kevin Durant, but he does complain about it. The difference is that LeBron has a family. So he has other things to keep him busy. He's not on Twitter all day. If he goes on social media for the most part, it's for him to try to sell a product that he's associated with. But because he has 2 sons, he has a daughter, he has a wife, he has other things that he gets into, he's not as caught down that rabbit hole as KD is. But they have very similar personalities.
They hating on me. He doesn't say that. Why? Because it's not...
Actually, yes, he does. LeBron's always talking about how people are hating on him.
It's not an issue. If you wanted to go to bed, like I said, rule number 1 about roasting. You let them roast and then just be quiet and they'll stop because no one likes to roast a silent target, right? But if you keep... Well, actually, that means, oh, it's under his skin. And that means every time we say stuff, he's going to get a reaction. And that's what people do. People who like to roast people are waiting for the people who react every single time.
But that's
Yeah, I mean, that's called a troll. A troll will say anything for attention. Because a troll is trying to hide the fact that they have not taken whatever it is that they can do well and try to do something with it. So a troll looks for reactions from other people so that they can get satisfaction out of provoking negativity from another person. That's all it's about. Like seeketh like. Remember, 2 negatives make a positive. So a troll emits negative energy, hoping to get a negative response. So now the troll has a positive reaction within himself.
That's why I think KD and LeBron is different. KD got time. I got time to respond. That's what it is, you know.
I agree with you, sir.
You know what I'm saying? I think KD is way more hated than LeBron, but at the same time...
Wait, way more hated than LeBron in 2010?
Right now.
No, I'm just saying that we're comparing the height of the hate.
You can't compare 2010. You got to compare 2013 or whatever it was, or the end of 2000.
Going to Miami.
Right? He's in his 3rd season after making...
No, but I'm just saying, if KD's at his most hated right now, in his mind, it doesn't even compare to the most hated that LeBron got, the most hated that... Man, I'll say some other guys. Chris Paul got it worse. Carmelo Anthony got it worse. Dog, they were talking about these people's family. It wasn't just about them.
I don't remember Chris Paul and his move to the Clippers or to the Rockets being controversial in the least. I think that Amin is trying a little bit too hard here.
You talk about these guys, the scrutiny they got. They have to hear things about family members. Okay. Incorrect.
Signing
this guy's getting he's not great.
Signing with teams that you didn't play for and being up 3-1 on a team, then signing with them next year, that's not even close, bro. That's not even close.
Come on.
They were up 3-1. So that's why people hate KD. But let me say this.
Won't compare, though.
Let me say this, though. People hate him because they don't understand what it feels like to win.
And they also don't understand what it feels like to have options, Steven Jackson. Don't forget that. Once again, the average person is never going to have a competing corporation ask them for their services and promise them greater amenities, things of that nature. The average person is never going to experience that. So they can't even comprehend what a Kevin Durant, what his life is like. They just can't comprehend it.
KD made that decision off winning. And if everybody that don't understand that winning means everything, then you just a loser.
There you go. I'm going to put that on a
That's fair, yeah.
Or a banner.
But that's the thing. That's like...
What are those inspirational posters like at the mall? That's how many
Rachel, real quick.
Yes.
You're a voter.
Yes.
I'm a voter.
Yes.
Do you think that KD made the wrong decision to go to Golden State?
I do not.
I do not either.
Right.
That's what we respect it. We understand it. There's nobody hating him.
That's what I said.
Right.
I mean, look, the
Not
voters.
the voters.
If you look at the voters, I would not. I look at that voting list and I don't hear them talking about
16-years
Right.
on Instagram, something different. I can't
Totally
speak for
different.
that.
Right.
I can't
We
speak
got to
for
get to...
And that's part of the problem. KD is playing in the mud a little bit too much, but at the same time, I don't truly believe that when many of these quote-unquote voters for the NBA accolades are deciding who they're going to give consideration to, that they're not saying to themselves, well, KD is in Golden State, it's easier for him. Of course they're thinking that. And anybody who does not understand that, you're not being realistic.
To get to our daily segment, yes,
But anyway, that's basically it on that. We'll see how things turn out for Mr. Kevin Durant in this oncoming season.